Now, Ink Products, we're going to show you on this video about maintenance and repair of a Canon continuous ink system. Now, all the Canons that use the CLI 221 cartridge, CLI 226, and we'll show you, they're all going to repair basically the same. Now, this particular printer we've had in our warehouse, someone got it, been sitting for a long time, really a long time, probably almost 8 months. So I'm going to use this as our test one to show you how to repair something. Hopefully you don't let it get as bad as this one. Now we're going to plug it in, and we're going to take out the CIS cartridges. And this is where the part of the video is going to be how to repair them, how to maintain them, do some maintenance on them. And these are our new Executive Series 2 continuous ink system ink tanks. It's got the isobaric chamber, it's got the backflow damper. Now we added a little heat sensing damper in there. I'll explain that later. Something really new. It can control the ink by the temperature in the room. Go into that later. Then we have a new purge tool. Now I've got all my plugs turned off. I'm going to show you how to clean the printhead, because like I said, this printer's been sitting probably around 8 months. So we plugged it in, let's turn it on. And then lift it up. Remove the jumper plug, if it has one. Now this is pretty much for all the Canons that have this type of cartridge. We're going to wait till it comes over. And then when I get it where I can see it, I'm going to unplug it. There you go. Now I can move it by hand. Now we're going to take it out of the hose brackets. Unplug it. All the cartridges, and just take them out. Lay them down. Now these cartridges, with one of our test printers, we used a new COC chip on. There's the printhead. I'll take that out. Should be able to get it up. Look inside. It's got ink all over it. This one has some gaskets, which I'm going to take out. I'm going to take this over to the sink. I'm going to show you how we're going to clean this out. Okay, now I brought the printhead over to the sink. Now if you have a little printhead cleaner, you can pour that in there. Put it right down like that and let it sit for a minute. And if you got more time, just let it sit for 20 minutes. Then you can turn on the hottest water you can get. Wait till it gets warm. And then flush it out. Now again, this has been sitting quite a while. Another thing I want to point out is I bought one of these cans of air, and I just push air through it like that. Got to be very careful now when you do this, because these little gaskets inside that Canon puts can pop out and go down the drain. That's why I've got something to block the drain. That's what you want to do. We're going to clean it out first. Now, do you have to do this every time that you're going to do a repair? No. Because this printer's been sitting for a very long time, I'm cleaning it out. Let it sit and let it run right over it. Now, the other thing, don't use any alcohol or any ammonia. Alcohol can delaminate some of the adhesive to get in the wrong spot. Also, you use ammonia and gold don't like each other, so don't do that. If you're going to do anything, just get some liquid soap. You know, Downy or whatever you got, or Dawn, right? And just let the soap do it. It's not going to hurt anything. It's going to help dissolve that hard particles of ink. And then just keep blowing it out. Keep checking. You don't lose those gaskets. There you go. Okay. Set it back down. I can shut it off. Get some paper towels. If you want, you can blow it out with a little air to dry it off a little bit. There you go. And take some paper towels and dry it. Take your time. Make sure it's nice and dry. Like I said, if you don't have the good printhead cleaner, then just use ordinary Dawn dish soap or any type of soap. Don't use alcohol or ammonia. Now you can see I've dried it out. That's the best way to clean a printhead. Now I can go over and put the printhead in. There we go, put that over there. Okay, now we're going to look at the cartridges. Now remember, I have all the ink plugs back in. Make sure, otherwise the cartridge will start to leak ink all over. Now let's look at the cartridges. Don't forget, it's been sitting. That one, the black is completely empty. That would not print very well. Or any time this chamber, called the supply chamber, is empty, it will not draw ink from the ink tank. That's where the little purge tool comes in. So I'm going to wipe it off. Get it lined up. Take my time. If you want, you can put rubber bands around it to hold it. There we go. Now, if you had a bad chip, you can get a chip from us. You can peel off the old chip and stick the new chip on. We use glue dots. These little glue dots. Yellow looks pretty good. That's empty. That one's empty. Half empty. They're all empty in here. Now that can cause a problem even from a day-to-day use. If you lose that prime in those cartridges, it will not pull ink from the tank. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the cyan first. I'm going to reach over and then plug the large plug from the ink tank. Not the small one, but the large one. Now, that should have a lot of ink in it. If it was less than this, you should add ink before you're going to purge the cartridge. Now, I took only the cyan out. Then, depending on how you want to do it, sometimes I use a big clamp to hold it. That's up to you. But basically what you're going to do is go over the top. Just like this. Okay? I'm going to turn this so you can see when I do purge it. Okay, now I can get in there. Get the hose set underneath there. Make sure I can get that camera to come down a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to place it over. Like I said, if you're trying to do it, see the way it's going to move, you can. You can get a big, oops, hit that. You can get a big clamp to hold it. That gives you the extra hand that you need. Now, I can go down, hold it, and start to pull up. And watch to see. See, now it's starting to fill. See it filling? Keep pulling. Keep pulling. Hold it for a second. And that's the way it should fill that tank. I can take it off. I can discard this ink and do it one more time. Now, just to be sure, again, I go over it, and I pull up. If you don't get a good vacuum, it won't work. So you want to make sure you're right on that. Push down and pull up. You'll know when you get a good vacuum, it's hard to pull up. And then there's the ink I've got in it. Now, go back over to the ink tank and put that plug in. Now the ink can't leak backwards or ink pouring all over the place. That's how you would do all of them, exactly the same way. So that's how you can purge up a system, change out a chip, even change out a cartridge, because I'm going to show you that next. And this is important what I'm going to show you. This little exit port here that I'm pointing to. Okay, now I'm pointing to the exit port where the ink comes out. That's important. If that little exit port area here gets pushed in for whatever reason, cartridge is no good. Can't use it. How you'll know usually is it'll start to print and fade out. That can be a bad printhead or it can be a bad exit port right in there. Now I'm going to do one to show you what it looks like if it's pushed up too far. Now here's one I had to replace. This gasket got in there, that little area right there. This is the one that had to be replaced, but this gets pushed up inside the cartridge near the exit port. Got a big gap here. You have that, or you gotta look real close because sometimes the gap is just a little bit. It won't feed ink correctly. Now to replace it, you can buy a replacement, and all you're basically going to do is pull the hose out of your CIS, push it into the new one, and then purge it. That's how you change out the hose. So you can use a pair of needle nose, or I'm doing it with my fingers. I'm not even using rubber gloves, but take that out off the hose assembly, and then push it in to the new one, turn it over, and then you can purge it, just like I did on the cyan. That's how you replace a cartridge. Very simple. Okay, now I had a lot of ink on my hands, so I used some of our hand cleaner that we sell, and then I'm going to go wash it off. Cleans the dye off. Just take your time, you rub it in, and then I'm going to go over to the sink and rinse it off. It's better if you wear rubber gloves. less chance to get all this ink all over you. Of course, I get it all over me almost every day. Okay, now I've finished it up. You can see it took it off my hands. We call it Ink Off. That's our brand name that we have. And it just works great if you don't put rubber gloves on. Now, obviously, we sell it on our website, or you can wear rubber gloves. Now, after these are all purged and all these lines have no more air in them, then I'm going to put it back in the printer and we'll do a couple of tests. Okay, now I've finished purging all the cartridges and we're going to get ready to put the printhead in and put the cartridges in. But before we do that, I want to point this out. Make sure all the plugs are back in. Make sure you have plenty of ink in the ink tank. Now, like I said, this has been sitting for 8 months, maybe even longer in our warehouse, and it's almost out of ink. Now, that is our ink, sitting for 8 months. But I'm not going to add any ink. I'm going to put this in the printer, and I'm going to show you what happens. Right the way we're doing it here, it's going to go in. So we're going to see really what happens after you go through all this work. One thing I tell people when we sell a product, I cannot build common sense into the product. Just like what I'm doing here. Work in a safe area, take your time. If you're not capable of doing it, don't do it. But I also say, you didn't get that far in life that you can't figure this out. It's not rocket science. But it can be messy. Some people get frustrated. So that's your only alternative. Don't do it. Go to the store and buy cartridges. forget this. But if you want to save money and you want to print a lot, you're either going to refill these cartridges or you're going to get a continuous ink system. But make sure it's going to be a quality one, because you can go through the same frustration for these $69, $59 systems, and they don't work anyway. Okay, now I'm going to put the printhead back in, same way I took it out. Make sure all the little gaskets in there. You don't need to put the little gaskets back in. Sometimes you can use them, sometimes you can't. The little gaskets are useful if the Canon printhead gasket is either swollen or shrunk. So you never know. You got to experiment with that. Close the lid back down. Okay, that's how simple it was to put that in. Now, here's the tricky part. I've got to get all the cartridges together, flip it over, and put it in. Spill a little ink in there. So, again, wear rubber gloves. Do what you got to do. But I just flip them over, lay them down in there, get the hose untangled a little bit, and put them down in there. Hope you can see that. There you go. Take your time. Get that hose untangled. I should have done that before I did that. Okay. Snap it down. That's it. Now we're going to put it back in the bracket and run a cleaning, a heavy cleaning, or what they call deep cleaning. That's what you're going to run. Okay, now I put it in. I've got it back in all the hose brackets. Now I'm going to do hose travel. Now sometimes, if you notice right here, I put a piece of a little felt here, because sometimes if it goes over and if it's not adjusted right, it can rub on the hose right there. So you might want to think about that if you see it rubbing like that. But basically, you just got to take out a little bit more slack so it barely touches. This way, when you go all the way back over, that's correct. That's the way you want it. Okay, now that we did hose travel, we placed our hose in there in both of the brackets. Now, before we turn it on, we've got to open up the small air plugs over the isobaric chamber so air can go in. So you're not going to turn it on till you do that. Okay, now I'm going to open up the little air plugs in the back. Now, some people have a problem putting them back in sometimes. Just use a little dish soap right on here. They'll go right back in. Because over time, they may swell a little bit. So, if you can't get them out, or you don't want ink on your fingers, use a piece of paper towel like that. Now, again, I'm not adding any ink to the system. This is strictly to show you the repair and maintenance of the CIS system. Close it. Now, we're going to plug it back in and turn it on. Okay, now I'm going to plug it in just to show you on some of the models that when the hose comes out like that, right there, I give it a little bit more of a buckle. So when I close the lid, it's less chance to squeeze and block off the hose. And also, that helps. It acts like an anti-siphon for the ink tank. Okay, now we go turn it on. Okay, now I turned it on. We're going to see if we get any error codes. This has been sitting for about 8 months. I was going to go check the cartridges. I'll lift this so you can see. Cartridge is going to move back and forth, checking all the chips. But there is one thing I forgot. Remember the little blue jumper plug that has to go up in here? It has to go right there. I forgot to put it in. So the cartridges are going to go to the center and blink. So if you forget to do that, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get it to just blink. So let me go get a jumper plug. Now I can put it in. Now the cartridge will move back. And then on the screen, you'll be able to see the following cartridges cannot be recognized. Okay, shows the gray. Now, what I'm going to do is take that out and reset that cartridge, just to be sure that I got it in right. So, again, take out the blue plug. Cartridges will move over. Also, if you leave this lid open and you got too much light in there, you'll get all types of error codes. So I'm going to click it up, reset it, reset it, reset it. Put the plug back in. See what it says now. Might be time to replace that chip. Okay, the same one. No, I'm sorry, a different one. The black popped up. Okay, so now lift up. That's a U150 code. That's a little different. Sometimes just doesn't see. Let's do it again. Checking them all. Sometimes you can just have a bad chip. Okay, now I just keep getting one code after another. And what I found out is when I took the black cartridge out, I put it in, I waited till I saw the light blink, and then I just pushed it down and let it blink. Now, here's what I've got. On the screen, it's got the U130. It says the following cartridge cannot be recognized or detected. Now that can be taken care of. Come over here. You're going to see the stop button and this little triangle. Now, this is the way you shut off the ink monitor. You go, hold down the stop button, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, till it goes to process, and then it's telling me my power was turned off. So just click OK. And now we're back. So now I showed you a couple little things that can pop up. Whether you just used it yesterday, last week, or you let it sit. So things you have to go through to discover what your problem is going to be. So now I'm going to go over and I want to hit setup. Now you can do this from your computer, but I can do it right from here. So I touch setup. Maintenance. Okay. Now not all Canons are like this. So we give you instructions depending on your Canon. I'm going to go to deep cleaning. Oops, too much. One more. Okay. Yes. Okay, now it's going to do a deep cleaning. Okay, now it's done doing a deep cleaning. Now, I've not cut the video or taken anything out. You're going to see what I just did. This is the actual first nozzle check. Now, that's what we want. We want an X on every one of those so we can shut off that ink monitor. Now, from beginning to end, and I have not cut the video or put anything in, because I want you to see what it's actually going to do. Now, very impressed, because I've got all my colors, they all look good. A little breaks in the black. That's because that's a pigmented black. So you might have to do 1 or 2 cleanings. But the colors, for sitting as long as it did, this is one of our test printers, I did 1,200 pages on it before I didn't use it anymore for testing. That's why, for 8 months, and that's why we can say our ink does not clog the printhead. This is a pigment. It takes a little longer to get it to work. Now I'm going to do another cleaning. On a lot of the printers Canon has, they'll allow you just to do the black, so you don't have to clean all the colors. Okay, this has been, like I said a couple times in the video, this has been sitting for almost 8 months. This is our new backflow dampers, but they also have something else that's been added. A lot of people who try to copy us out there don't realize, because we build these, we test them. Right in here, we have a little sensor on each one of them. What this does is it senses temperature of the room. So as it gets warmer, it changes the pressure. When it gets colder, it changes the pressure. So these are very important, very important. Now, this is the first series that we're doing in this type of video, and this is the Canon. Then we're going to do HP, and then Epson will do it. But we're going to show you printers that have been sitting, that are dried up or don't work. But as long as they have our ink in it and using our technology, you can bring them back to life. Okay, this is my second deep cleaning. I've pretty much shut off most of the colors but one. We just did it again. Still got a couple of broken areas, but it's better than the last one. Now, normally, I would go in, maybe do one more. After 3, don't do any more, because all you do is wasting your ink. So it's best to set up the printer just to print better quality. I'm going to show you that in the rest of this video. This is important on any printer, whether it be HP, Epson, Canon. If you set up your properties correctly and run it, especially using the CIS. Okay, now if you go to our website and you go up near the top toolbar, it says How To, Instructions and Videos, right up the top here. Click on that. Then if you scroll down, I'll scroll down here for a minute. You're going to see Color Test Page. Click on that. And then the Color Test Page is going to come up. Okay, now I'm going to print this out. So I find out where it says I can print from the browser. So I click on Print. I'm going to cancel because I didn't pick the right printer. So I'm going to go up here to Print Preferences. Okay, we have a lot of printers. I mean, this is one of our test computers. So I've got a 6200 series. I'll click on that. Okay. Because I didn't set it before that. Okay, now I've clicked to print it out. And I'm going to go over here and show you, back to Print Preview. Go here. Now see where it says Preferences? Instead of just clicking to print, you want to click on that. Here's where I want to set it for plain paper spline. But any printer, anyone, Epson, Canon, HP, set it on high, set it on best. And that's where you run it all the time, because these are thermal printheads. Very important. If you do that, you'll double, if not triple, the life of your printhead. Set it for that all the time. Unless you're doing a photo, then you can print or pick photo paper, best photo. Okay, now this is one I picked, high quality plain paper. I'm going to show you the one I picked before this. This is what happens to a lot of people. The black is almost perfect. Almost. Pretty close. The whole thing looks excellent. But here's one, the very first one, when I just picked print. I lost a little black, stripes in the photos. There's the problem. You've got to learn to set the printer for better quality. Now, if Canon's cartridges worked all the time, you wouldn't need a utility to do cleaning, right? But they still have to do it. So they even have trouble with their own product. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that in there.